Welcome back to Sunday Morning Quickies, episode 115, the 7th of April, 2024. Liz and I were away for a better part of a week, which is why there was no Sunday Morning Quickies this past weekend. And, but we're back. We, spent a few days out in the Gettysburg, Pennsylvania area where we did a little history looking and we did a little house looking and just getting a feel for the area out there. And then we spent a couple of days with my sister in York, Pennsylvania, hanging out. We spent Easter with her. And now we're back. So what's sitting on the bench here is this GE sewing machine motor from viewer Emma sent this in. It's crunchy. It's not wanting to move. And I just took the set screw out that's holding the pulley on, and it doesn't want to move, so I'm setting up a posi lock to pull that off. I don't know if I can get this posi lock to go small enough. I should be able to, but we're going to find out right quick. And I might actually have to grip it inside. I think inside is going to be my best option. And it's gripping. Okay, let's get just to get it to move on the shaft here. Okay, we'll give it a little pull, and it's coming. Let's throw a little bit of penetrating oil on this too. And it's coming off. There we go. Anyway, while we were out in the Gettysburg area, we got there on Thursday. We were there for Thursday and Friday, and the Saturday morning we left and we went down to see my sister in York, which, if you know the geography of the area, York, Pennsylvania is not too far down the road from Gettysburg. It's all in central PA. Anyway, while we were in Gettysburg, we got an opportunity to visit with our good friend and also viewer Meredith, who lives in that area. And we went to dinner and had a great time. And got to catch up on stuff. We hadn't seen Meredith in a while, so that was nice. But anyway, this motor. Emma had contacted me about this, and it was attached to a machine. I'll put a picture up over here that she sent me. It looks like a Wilcox and Gibbs, and we're calling it the Mystery Machine. But obviously this thing has some issues. I'm like, you think? But it's also not moving. So I told her, go ahead, send it to me, but no guarantees I can fix it. I'm not familiar with this motor. And what the heck is that doing? So I got to try to figure out how this thing's going to come apart. So there we go. That's coming off. There we are. Oh, nice and crunchy. This looks pretty straightforward, actually, now that I got her open. Let's get the... Why is this being so crunchy, though? That is the question. So we'll try to figure out what's going on here. Oh, come on. Doesn't want to, this half doesn't want to come out of the shell, and we need to get it out of the shell. This is my problem. There we go. It's coming up. There we are. We're out. Okay. And there are some brushes there, believe it or not. Okay. Let's get this. All right, let's see how these things are marked, or are they marked? They are not marked. Okay, these have to go opposite side of the coil that they're going to. This wire runs up to the top. This wire runs down to the bottom, and I'm calling top and bottom where these wires are. This is where I'm going to do the rewire. And yeah, this is crunchy. So this bearing here is kind of messy. So let's first take a look and see if we can free these bearings up and see what's going on with this. It looks like there's a screw in there. So where is my small... Here it is. Is there a screw in that? It is difficult to see. Apparently not. That's just pressed on there. We might use the posi lock to pull that off as well. Okay. Because this is all going to have to get cleaned and polished up. And that ain't going to happen with the way this thing's sitting. So, let's take a quick peek. Oh, that still has to go further back. There are other gear and bearing pullers, of course, on the market. And I've had a couple of different suggestions from people saying that the posi lock is very expensive and they can't afford one, and they're suggesting other units that I should try. As a matter of fact, I bought one of them, this little beast right here, but honestly at the moment I'm sticking with what I know, and I know the posi lock's going to get this off for me, because this all has to be cleaned and polished, because this is why this bearing ain't working. We'll just pull that off. Let's continue to use the posi lock to push it out. Okay, and come on off. And that's as far as that's going to take it. Get off of there. So yeah, but anyway, oh yeah, today is, I'm shooting this on Friday, I think it's the 5th, anyway, today was the day we had the nice little earthquakes here in New Jersey, and if you believe New York television stations, they're making it sound like it happened there, and it actually happened in Jersey, but that's okay. Alright, we're fine, no damage. Interestingly though, or actually humorously, one thing that did happen here was sitting on top of our refrigerator, there's a big container of Temptations cat treats. And when the earthquake hit, now the earthquake was a 4.8 on the Richter scale, and it was centered, about maybe 30 miles from here. It shook the house pretty good. And that container of Temptations cat treats came crashing down to the kitchen floor and bust open. And while the cats were initially kind of scared about the whole thing with the earthquake, they heard the crash of the treat container and heard the treats spilling out on the kitchen floor. So there was a mad panic rush, actually a pandemonium of cats going to get to the treats. So as much as they might like to complain about it, they seem to enjoy themselves. So anyway, I'm going to put this aside for the moment, and I want to deal with the fact that this bearing doesn't want to come on and off this cleanly. So I'm going to get this over to the bench motor, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck it up on this side and polish this surface, and we're going to attack these, but the main bearings themselves separately. But I want to then I'm going to flip it around and clean and polish this surface up. So I'm going to do that over on the bench motor. All right, this side I already cleaned up, but I'm going to run it again. Actually, my phone rang and I got distracted. I'm going to use this blue one, which on one side is 320 and the other side is 400, and then I'm going to use the fine. So we'll start with the 320 side first, and just clean some of the excess crap off. Doesn't take much. And then the 400 side, and then this portion here is 600. Just clean it a little. This next portion, this white, is 4,000, and then the gray on the opposite side, that's 12,000. And that's just going to polish this shaft up real nice. Let me grab the bearing. Now I haven't done anything with this bearing yet, but already that's fitting on so much better. All right, before we do the clean the other side, we're going to clean these commutator bars. Same procedure. I'm going to start with the 320, and you'll see here it's taking a lot of the crap off. I don't want to take too much. There we go. Just get it so it gets to be all copper colored. Then we're going to go with the 400, and then we'll do the 600, the 4,000, and then the 12,000. Okay, now before we go any farther, I'm going to take this out of the motor, and we're going to take this over to the garbage can, and I'm going to show you how we're going to clean that. Alright, you can see in my trash can I got a whole bunch of paper towels and crap. I'm going to use this quick dry contact cleaner. Honestly, this is not the brand I normally use. I normally use the stuff from CRC. This happened to be what they had for sale at Home Depot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this inside the can and just flush those commutator bars to get all the residue from the polishing and cleaning process off of there. We don't want any of the copper we've been cutting to get across and short those out. So I'm just going to blast this. While we got it in here, I'm going to blast these cooling blades clean and blast the shaft here just to get some of the garbage off of that. And we'll shake that off, and then I'll show you a little trick, because we're going to go back to the bench motor. Alright, there's still a lot of loose schmoo on this, because that didn't dry completely yet. So if I fire this motor up right now, that's just going to throw stuff everywhere. So I'm just making a little tent like this out of some paper towel. I'm not getting it tight around anything. I'm just holding it away so that when I spin that motor up, the stuff's going to go flinging into the paper towel. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. We're going to let that run for just a little bit. And there you can see all this. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but all that's excess that came flying off out of the windings. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean up that the rest of that shaft now. Once again, I'm going to start with a 320 grit and just see what that's doing for getting some of this crud off of this shaft. Now, you'll remember when we first saw this motor, I was having a hard time turning it in the bearings, and that was because of all the rust that was on here. So I'm on the 320 and the 400. Got to be careful of those blades that are spinning. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's looking better. Let me grab a bearing so we can check it with a bearing. Still not quite there, but there might be crud in here yet. But it's getting closer. I'm going to take a different stick. This one starts at 400 and goes to 6. What I'm aiming to do is get the rust and the pitting down on this. Alright, now from here, and let's take a fresh one of these. This other font, well, it's not fresh, but it's in better shape. We'll start with the 600 grit. Once again, I've got spinning fan blades here I got to be cognizant of. So yeah, this is not for the faint of heart. And then we'll go to the 4,000 grit, and now to the 12,000. And let's see how this is feeling. That's feeling better, but it's still not perfect, and I think that's because there's a lot of shmoo inside this bearing here. So I'm going to take this out. We're going to go back over to the bench. All right, before we go any farther, we're going to take care of the inside surface of these bearings. And in order to do that, we're going to do it with a hard felt polishing point, which in this case is a cylinder, and some white compound. So I'm charging up the compound on the point. We're going to go inside and polish the inside of this surface, just like this. And we'll hit a little bit more compound on it. We'll get it from this side. Alright, let's see what that did. Let's first get ourselves a swab to clean this out. The smoke that came out of there was dramatic, to say the least. So there was obviously shmoo in there. Oh yeah, look at that. That's nice and free now, which it was not before. So whatever that shmoo was that we cut with the compound, that definitely made a difference. We're going to go in there again with more compound and make sure we've got all of it. And we'll go ahead and we'll get the tail one as well. There we go. Alright, that seemed to cut the rust in the shmoo. Grab yet another clean swab. And we'll clean these out. Yeah, you see all that nasty stuff? Alright, let's try this on the... I pulled all the washers off. Those are the washers for the tail. And that's a little tight yet. We're going to attack that one more time. The nose one is fine. The nose one feels good, and there's the washers for the nose. So I'm keeping the nose and the tail separate. But this still needs a little bit of cleaning. So I'm going to attack this one more time. Actually, this polishing point is clogged up with crud, so I'm going to toss this one and start with a fresh one. Okay, charge it up with compound, and we'll go in there and clean. See how that fits. Oh, much better. Much better. Okay, now I've got the crud out of this bearing. It's moving nicely. I just want to clean up the outside of this a little bit. So I'm going to grab my set of punches here and find one that'll fit nicely in there. That's a little sloppy. Is this one a little better? Nope, I had the right one the first time. And I'm going to use this punch out of my pen disassembly set as a mandrel to hold this so I can wire wheel the exterior of this thing. Then I'm just going to take it over to the buffing wheel and polish it. I'll be right back. Okay, now that I got that cleaned off, it's not super shiny, it's just cleaned. Getting the crud off. This is not going to polish up. I'm going to go ahead, before I lose them all, and put the washers that were on the commutator end of the shaft back on. Oops, there's one more. There's always one more. Get it on there. And then just drop that back in place. And then I'm going to lather, rinse, repeat, and do this side, the nose bushing. And we'll do exactly the same thing with it. The buffing wheel really didn't make much of a difference, so instead of taking it over to the other buffer, I'm just going to use a 1-inch wheel on a regular mandrel and white polishing compound and just kind of clean it up a little bit. We're not going to go super crazy on these. After all, we still don't know if this motor is going to run. Alright, and bada bing, bada boom, that's clean. So we're going to go ahead and put the front end washers on the shaft and just put the bushing, the bearing on, and that's going to move nicely now. So assuming these coils are all good, we should be able to make this motor run okay. But what we have to do first is we have to get through this gooey mess. As you can see, this is just disintegrating as I touch it. So let's take a look at what we have for what we're going to need for grommet size. And I'm hoping that this will be a good size grommet, what I've got here. I'm going to fit the two halves together first. And it goes that way. Yeah, that'll work. I don't like the size of the opening. The opening's a little big for my blood, considering the wire we're going to use. So I'm going to use one of the smaller ones like I use for Singer potted motors. And that looks like that's going to fit. But before I do this, and while I'm rewiring this, I'm going to put both of these halves, into the ultrasonic cleaner and let that do its job to clean that crud off. So let me get that plugged in and running. Alright, pardon the noise coming from the ultrasonic. I'm hoping it's not going to deafen us out here. Let me grab, let's see how long this wire was. Alright, I'm going to get like 6 feet of 18 gauge lamp cord. Alright, this is 6 feet more or less, and you'll see going through, it's going to fit nice and tightly in that grommet. But what we're going to do first, I'm going to strip that back, and then we're going to tie a knot. I'm going to tie a strain relief knot here. And there we go. That is tied. Goes right up to the grommet. So that's going to be okay. Now, just drape this across my lap for a moment. Get repositioned here. And get other tools we're going to need. Alright, there is a little metal washer here that they use at the factory that I'm going to eliminate. You know, I like that plug, but I don't like it that much. Cut that plug off though, save that for a minute. Alright, that goes to the trash, and we're saving the good wire. Now, pop this off of here. I don't know how that comes apart. Like I said, I apologize for the sound that the ultrasonic is making, but it's literally sitting a few feet away from me. Not even a few feet, like 2 feet away from me. And as I have mentioned in the past, this is an extremely small shop. And it's actually a 9x9 room that Liz and I share for this kind of stuff. She's prepared, does her musical instruments on the other side of the room. And I do sewing machines over here. So when I say it's tight in here, I mean it is tight in here. But trying to get this knot undone. Doesn't look like it's going to untie, so it's going to severely limit how I can tie this up. So and just crawl out of the way. Alright. Here we go. Here's where we're going to have to manually and very gently strip this wire back just a little bit. Okay, that's stripped. That actually went easier than I anticipated. And here we go. Come on, strip, strip, strip. Got to be very careful not to cut through the conductors. There we go. Now there's some other crap on there yet. There we go. Now it's all. Now all the insulation is off. Okay. So the problem I'm going to have is space to get shrink wrap on this. So I might hate myself for this, but I'm going to have to cut this back a little farther than I would like. Twist these up. You don't need nearly that much wire for the twisting process. Get the other one done. I still need to be able to insulate this. And that's what I'm afraid of right now. If I can't get enough space here to get shrink tubing on to cover the joint, that's what my fear is. So, let me pull out some black 1/8 inch. I'm going to have to do both of them. In case you haven't watched my other rewire stuff, I have spools of different colored shrink tubing hanging on above the light fixture over my bench. And I've got in 1/8 inch, I have black, yellow, red, and clear, and then I have 3/16 inch in black. And of course the purpose of all of that is for when I'm making cabling. So, alright, now I've got some 1/8 inch pre-staged by my knot, so I'm going to go ahead and do a wrap so I can solder this. Probably only going to get a couple of turns around. And that's it. I'm only doing a couple of turns on this. Let me get my soldering gun out. And I'm going to go ahead and solder this connection, or at least the first one. Get some of the stuff out of my way here. As usual, I have way too much stuff on my bench. Okay. And this is a case definitely where it is not true that the bigger the glob, the better the job. What we're going to do here is we're going to heat the work, not the solder, and then once we have the joint hot, we are going to just touch the solder to the joint, get enough to flow, and then get off of it. Let it cool really well before we try to get that heat shrink over it. You see we have more than enough right there. We're going to let that cool off completely. In the interim, I'm going to cut off the little nubby left over from when I wrapped. Pull that nice and straight. Once that's straight, pull my heat shrink over it. If my heat shrink will go. Oh, please cooperate. And this is what I was afraid of. My heat shrink is not going to go over there. Alright, I never do this, but in this case I have no choice. Cutting a small section of tape. I'm just going to tape the hell out of this. So I have no choice. I'm working in very constrained circumstances. Alright, one little more piece on there. Like I said, we still don't know if these coils are any good either. We will soon find out. I know I'm going to get some hate for the way that just went, but I invite anybody, come on over and redo it and do it better. I would love to have it done better than that, but that's what happened. Alright, get some heat on it. That's it. Trim and trim. That just went off a little pouch, like a little projectile. And a little piece right there. Didn't quite get, so get a sharper one of these. There we go. Get the shrink tubing over it. I think the problem is that because this is such a short length, well, it went over that time. This one I don't have to add tape to. But on the other one, the heat just built up in the wire. And honestly, I don't even think I need to heat shrink this because that's such a tight fit. But we'll give it a little doobly-doo. Okay. And that stuff's been sitting in the ultrasonic for 10 minutes. So let's shut that off and see what that looks like. Ooh, nice and warm. Alright, I'm going to take these to the sink, rinse them off to get the soap off them, dry them. I'll be right back. Okay, we have made tremendous progress. So I'm going to stick the, you get this brush back in the holder. This is always a bit of a challenge to do because when you have this style brush holders, it's never any kind of fun working these. So what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to run the coil up and in, and then get the brushes back in their holders and aimed at the commutators like that. Okay, I don't know how well you saw what I just did, but I did it, and I'm not going to do it again. Alright, so now I'm going to lay the whole thing in and get the excess wire and the grommet in there. Get the bearings locked in. That should be good. That goes there. That's going around there. Make sure nothing's interfering. Nothing is interfering. Okay, and these little notches here engage the notches on the brush holding disc here, or plate I should say. I'm going to get those lined up correctly. There we go. That's lined up correctly now. And I don't think that's right. Let me look at this. Yeah, that's okay. Well, it's about an hour later. I struggled with this thing to get it back together again. It is not a fun task to do. Getting everything to line up is especially tricky, especially seeing how the nuts that are cast into the lower side of the casting, you can't see to get the screws in. And there was only 3 of the 4 screws present on this when it arrived. It is far from being pretty, but on the other hand, I'm controlling that off a modern electronic controller. She is running. So there's something to be said for that. But yeah, so it works. Sometimes you're really good, sometimes you're really lucky, and sometimes you're just good and lucky. And this time I think I was just good and lucky because I didn't have high hopes for this project. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. That's what I've got for you this week for Sunday Morning Quickies. And we'll see you on the next one.